The President of the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, and ruler of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and his family landed in the Eastern Cape at the Bulembu Airport, spending about 20 million rand to get the airport ready. The wealthy rulers in the country, along with an entourage of an estimated 600 people, including other members of the UAE royal family. However, controversy has clouded the arrival of the UAE president's fleet of aircraft, and questions are being raised about whether proper procedure was followed. So let's find out more from Eastern Cape Premier Spokesperson Zuko Godlimpi. Good evening to you and welcome, Zuko. You would see over the last few days a lot of questions about whether all the rules were followed. The Home Affairs Minister says indeed they were. So let's kick off with some of the procedural ones before we get to what's in it for the province. Is this visit supposed to have been declared in the Government Gazette for public comment, and was that done?
Good afternoon, Iman. Thank you for having us. So let me start with the part that concerns what we had to do as the Eastern Cape. Our task as the Eastern Cape was to apply for the relevant regulatory admission so that this could be undertaken. So we did that as the Eastern Cape, and then all the other procedural matters were to be attended to by the Department of Transport and the Department of Home Affairs, and that work has been done. And with respect to the Gazette, it would be the competency of national government. So it was not the Eastern Cape that was supposed to do the publication.
But one would think, you know, government departments do not work in silos, and it's in your interest because this is a high-value visit for you. If we read about all of the benefits to the province and what this means in the future for some of the bigger plans that the Premier has, it's important that there is that level of collaboration and cooperation, and this is a question that's been in the air for a while around whether all of the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. So are you saying that you're not sure if that was done, and this is not something that would have been in your purview anyway?
The starting point is that it wouldn't have been on our purview, but as far as we are concerned, all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted.
Are you checking? I mean, are you asking these questions back to the minister? And the reason I ask it, if you look at some of the criticism around this, we heard from the DA, they're planning on taking things forward. They say if the declaratory letter that authorized the visit is there, it could potentially be at risk, and that could imperil this visit. So if you have a high-value, visit in the province and it could be at risk, one would ostensibly want to find out, well, is it at risk or not? So what answers are you getting in this regard?
So we've been in communication with government departments throughout the process, Imani, and we did try as much as possible to keep coherence between us as a subnational government authority with the national government authority. So that work we've been doing throughout the period, and we did file all the applications in terms of the law, and they were granted in terms of the law. I haven't quite seen what the DA is saying on the matter as you are putting it like that. I didn't quite see the letter that you're saying they wrote, but we will follow up on that, and we will be in communication with the relevant ministries as well, just to be sure that all the matters related to legality and lawfulness are watertight.
Given the criticism, is Premier Mabuyane worried about this now?
The Premier is not quite worried because our intentions are all well intended, as far as this matter is concerned. There was no malicious intent on any part or no malicious act on our part and the part of anybody concerned. So the Premier, is not worried. He's actually quite upbeat about the prospects that this visit has for the Eastern Cape, promoting it as both a tourism destination for high-end personnel and also an investment destination, which is our ultimate intention out of this visit. We want to leverage that visit to expand our trade and investment relations with the UAE, because as you might be aware, the UAE is quite a net exporter of capital, and the Eastern Cape is quite capital-starved, and our development prospects rely on our ability to convince high-end visitors with capital endowments that can help us invest in the development of the province. So from that perspective, the Premier is quite happy with the visit.
It seems unfortunate then, doesn't it, that this good intention, as you say, is being eclipsed by very real questions around procedure. And you would know, along with the rest of South Africans, that we, I think, are still feeling quite bruised and wounded out of the Gupta affair and their commandeering, of a national key point to get into the country, and all of the things that wrought, that people really want to make sure that this visit is above board and that everything was done the way it ought to have been done. Just one or two operational questions before we get to what you started talking about there, and that's the benefit, the economic benefit for the province now and into the future. Did everyone have their visas? Have everyone's documents been checked?
Yes, all of that is, and I think that question was answered by the Minister of Home Affairs as you initially stated. That was done. And then maybe we'll circle back to some of the supposed controversy around the matter. And you are correct when you say that the visit has been eclipsed by negative coverage. And what makes it the most unfortunate is that the coverage also bordered on misinformation a tad bit. And there are a few issues of concern which then draw the unexisting parallel between this landing and the one that you referred to. First and foremost, there is no national key point that is in question in this conversation that we are having. And one of the things that we did in the application for the temporary designation of international airport, it was to make sure that we get the customs and the immigration officials on the ground to process all the matters that you're asking about, whether everyone's passport was attended to. And that work, we've been assured by Home Affairs that it was undertaken, and the minister is on record having said they did all the work that had to be done.
Just two more quick things then about the airport upgrades. Was this an upgrade of the runway and facilities, or was this more a cosmetic upgrade? And there was a question about specialized air traffic staff being brought on specifically for this. Was that covered in the 20 million rand budget?
The first thing, yes, that was covered. And I just want to make the point that the amount of 20 million was not an amount that was communicated officially by us. It was something that was covered by journalists, and people have been running on that.
So clarify us and correct the record then.
No, I'm not saying that the 20 million is the exact amount or there's an amount above it. I'm just saying that it must not be misconstrued as if it's us who stated that it was 20 million. And the reason for that is that we're not the ones who are spending the money, right? That was work that was done via the embassy of the UAE. So they are in a better position to know how much it was. But the aspects of expenditure that we are aware of was for the upgrade of the lighting around the runway, the improvement of the markings in order to be compliant with the standard of an international airport, and the cutting down of trees and grass, because that has been a disused runway for a very long time. But the advantage of it is that it's one of the longest we have in the Eastern Cape, about 2.5 kilometers. I think it's rivaled only by the Mthatha Airport. Yeah. Because when they were being designed historically by the Bantustan authorities, they were designed as international airports. So it made sense in that regard. And the other issue then was the backup generator that was required in order to keep the lighting going and the system functioning at the airport. Because the airport has not been used, it has not had the equipment to process arrivals as you would want for customs and immigration. Okay. So some of the equipment that was installed was covered in the amount concerned. And then, of course, that includes fuel for the jets that were landing, right, when they were landing and they were leaving. Yes.
Zuko, so this does afford us, and I hope you don't mind then, we just want to quickly sort out these operational issues in the time we have left. You say that the money issue, so you don't know what price tag is attached to this, if I understand you correctly. So please feed back to me. And that whatever money was provided was exclusively for landscaping, lighting, and a generator. However, I did read a report from the South African Civil Aviation Authority which confirmed that there had been runway upgrades. So let's just streamline the information before we get to whether the money was given to the embassy of the UAE and they spent it somehow. It seems a little unclear to me in this moment. So just please clarify, Zuko.
Okay, this is the point is this was not money from the South African government or the Eastern Cape government. That is the point that I'm making. Now, suppose that they spent the 20 million, but that 20 million was for specific tasks, right? That would be the general maintenance of the place. You're correct. That's the runway. That's the lighting on the runway. That's the markings on the runway. That's the backup generator. That has also to do with the screening equipment. That has to do with tree felling, grass cutting. That has to do with communications and sound systems, because the airport has been disused for a while. So those are the line items that had to be procured to make it an airport of the standard that is required. And that also includes refueling the jets when they landed to bring the people and the cargo, and then when they were leaving as well.
All right,
so the report is correct in that regard.
All right, well, we're out of time. More issues that I needed to talk to you about, but thank you very much for your time this evening.